All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about sex and intimacy. So we're going to talk a little bit about sex and intimacy in relationships. So sex and intimacy, right? So sex and intimacy starts well before the bedroom. And sometimes I think that that's one of those misconceptions when it comes to improving the sex and improving the intimacy in the relationship, right? So when it comes to that particular category in a relationship, what I mean that it comes well before the bedroom is that your daily actions, right? Like your communication style, the way that you treat your partner, the way that you interact with your partner, the way that your partner interacts with you plays a big part in the actual act of sex, right? And in order for a person or two parties to actually improve that part of their relationship, they have to really dissect where is the barriers to that particular area being improved, right? And a lot of those barriers in those areas that can be improved are it's a twofold thing. So the twofold thing that I mean is that one part of that is your own individual like stressors or things that you may be stressed out about or things that you may be concerned about. And then also the interaction between you and your partner, which is like a secondary thing, right? So when it comes to desire, right, or the actual wanting to be physically intimate with your partner, there's a lot of different components and aspects that go along with that desire part, right? So if there's a lot of conflict in a relationship, if there's a lot of disrespect, if there's a lot of just back and forth, nitpicking type stuff, either one party or the other party is not may not feel that desire to actually be intimate, or they may not feel that need to actually feel like they want to be intimate with their partner. And that's only a small part of it, right? So a lot of times when it comes to the buildup to physical intimacy, if there's no hand holding, if there's no affectionate kissing, if there's no this affectionate touch to the other person, there's not a lot of guess what you call warming up there to the actual act of wanting to be physically intimate with that person, right? So that goes back to that key piece about physical intimacy starts well before the actual bedroom because that means that if you're not a fan of obviously PDA or just holding hands or just any physical touch, then that could play a small role in why one party or the other party is not 100% warm to the fact of physical intimacy, right? The other component to that is that when it comes to making a person feel wanted and feel needed and feel desired, a lot of that goes towards how intentional you are, right? And what I mean by how intentional you are, meaning how intentional are you when it comes to listening to the other person's views, their thoughts, and we're just giving them a space where they can actually communicate in a non-judgmental way, right? Is that safe space there in the relationship where both parties are being heard, both parties are being seen, and both parties feel validated by those particular conversations, and then also the appropriate amount of empathy is actually being put into those situations as well. And if those particular components are kind of absent within the relationship, again, that can be one of those things that could be really affecting the sex life of the relationship as well. Because again, if there's a lack of respect, if there's a lack of just general communication when it comes to how a person feels and why do they feel the way that they do, then there's a lot of assumptions being made, right? And those assumptions can roll over into your physical life, which is your sex life, your intimacy life, right? So those are huge components of either A, improving a sex life, or B, a sex life staying stagnant, right? So when it comes to like actually like navigating the difference between physical intimacy, the sex life of your relationship, the best way that you can kind of navigate that is to make sure that every day you are around your partner, you are doing something that is intentionally beneficial for that person, which means if they have something to say, you're intentionally stopping what you're doing, you're listening to them, you're giving them that space to communicate with you. If they're a physical touch person, you're physically touching, like you're rubbing their shoulders, you're touching the small of their back, you're giving them more than a 5-second kiss. You telling them you love them. You're giving them something to kind of work towards with that, right? And those things right there, they provide a big impact when it comes to desire and what a person would like to do with their partner, right? And again, the other component of that is your own individual stressors, right? So if you are dealing with some things that is kind of stressing you, worrying you, concerning you, that have probably nothing to do with your relationship, then those things could affect the way that you are, I guess, when it comes to physical intimacy as well, because those things affect your mental, your emotional state, right? So if you're preoccupied mentally and emotionally with other things that don't necessarily involve the relationship, then that means that your focus is not solely on physical intimacy. It's not solely on being intimate. It's more on like, how do I solve this particular problem? How do I navigate this particular situation? So it's best that those particular situations are communicated directly to your partner. And if these are like ongoing situations that you have to kind of continue to kind of navigate and actually try to work through, it's imperative for you to try to work towards an actual plan or like a solution or something kind of to decrease the stress, right? And decrease some of the stress level there, because if not, then that could really cause a big decrease when it comes to how enjoyable sex actually is, right? Because that's the other component too, is that some, and this is not everybody, but some people can actually just perform the act of sex even though they are going through specific things. But in that same instance, though, in a relationship and or marriage, sex is supposed to be an aspect of that relationship that produces connection, right? A strong connection between you and that person, which is sex is just not sex. Sex is making love, right? And you want to also consider the percentage of, if you are having sex or intimacy with your partner, how much of that percentage is you actually making love to your partner, or is it just you just having sex with your partner? Which is that's the difference there. Because like I said, one requires a little bit more time than the other, which is making love requires a little bit more time because it's intentional time. Like it's wanting to please the other person time versus sex, which is wham bam boom, we good and that's it. So you just gotta kind of consider that because again, physical intimacy, sex is supposed to be relationship building, like connection building as well. So if you take those key components of kind of what I was kind of talking about when it comes to physical intimacy, sex, and then just kind of mirroring that towards any situations that you have going on in your current relationship, a lot of those tips, a lot of those things that I kind of talked about can definitely help kind of improve certain aspects of the actual relationship. But to kind of summarize all this up, to improve that area of that relationship, you have to be intentional about loving that person the way that they want to be loved, right? Not the way that you think that they should be loved. Okay. So if you know that person's love language, if you're pouring into that person's particular love language, if you are connecting with that person from a communication level with respect and honesty and transparency, if you're trying your best to be very intentional about being affectionate and being openly communicative to that person, the only other aspect of that is how you manage your stress, right? And how you're managing the things that you have going on in your life, your daily life, so that you have the best opportunity to have that connection, that desire that you both want when it comes to your physical intimacy in the sex life in your relationship. So hopefully those tips definitely helped you. If you like the video, definitely share it, like it, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.